Mind, left as it is the unity of the three kayas. Ordinary mind is the unity of the form body and the dharma body. Leaving mind within the non-conceptual state is luminous and marked and imbued with the wisdom of all the Buddhas, with non-dual wisdom. As soon as there is a stirring within the mind to cling on the sense impressions, there's a very tricky process which begins to formulate a kind of momentum of the sense impressions into an identity. And this thing becomes like a ghost that possesses you. But under the weight and the depth of the unity of the three kayas in the mind, which is full of Buddha gnosis, the wisdom of the awakened Bodhi mind, the wisdom of the Dharmakaya, it's like the building can't stand up anymore. The foundation of that ghost and all of the attachments and aversions that comprise its false imputed reality are undermined. They're cut. It's cut off. It doesn't take much to stir the mind into imputing itself an identity upon the sense impressions that we get from our aggregates, our form, feeling, perceptions, mental formations, and even our consciousness. And it's more and more reinforced by this fixation and obsession with conceptual thinking. Not that there's anything inherently wrong with conceptual thinking, but conceptual thinking becomes like this overwhelming, scintillating expression of the three kayas into delusion. Conceptual thought is always delusion. Give an example. You see a lot of people even like Buddhists arguing about the difference between self or no self. The Buddha teaches self, did he teach no self? It says in the Ananda Sutta, somebody walks up to the Buddha and asks him if he teaches a doctrine of no self, and the Buddha stays quiet, or if he teaches a doctrine of a self, and the Buddha stays quiet. And he asks the Buddha if he teaches a doctrine of no self, and the Buddha stays quiet. And the monk Ananda asks the Buddha, he says, well, why did you stay quiet? And the Buddha said, well, if I would have affirmed that I teach the doctrine of self, then he would have thought that I was on the side of those Brahmins and those Hindu guys, those people who study the Upanishads, who affirm the notion of Atman, of a self. And he said, if I were to say that I didn't affirm a self, then I would be on the side of those Brahmins and meditators who teach the doctrine of no self. So the Buddha remained quiet. Because the unity of the three kayas, the absolute reality, Bodhi, is not a self or a no self. The Buddha was demonstrating the nature of the relative reality of the two truths. As soon as you start to conceptually fixate on the sense impressions and give rise to, rather kind of allow the unity of the three kayas to transform into the ghost that's haunting samsara, it only is able to conceptualize in terms of relative phenomena, and people don't realize that because they're ensnared by the ghost that's haunting samsara. They're completely overwhelmed by it, and they have no pure experience of the unity of the three kayas. As soon as you start to conceptualize like this, you should see how the relative, how the phenomena, how the logical seeming system that you're using is completely relative, totally relative. It can't stand up on its own. The only thing that stands up on its own is Dharma. Dharma stands up on its own. The four Brahma Viharas, loving kindness, sympathetic joy, compassion, equanimity. Those stand up on their own. Those are the quality of the unity of the three kayas. Wisdom, the two accumulations of merit and wisdom, those stand up on their own. Those aren't relative phenomena. You can talk about them in a relative way, but it doesn't matter. Anything that you can express conceptually is relative. But even more so with ignorant relative phenomena. Totally ignorant relative phenomena. it's so crucial to understand what I'm talking about, because I I I I can think of I probably that the people that I know even amongst Buddhists that really understand the notion of dependent origination and emptiness, I can count them on like one hand. The people that I know that really understand the doctrine of the core doctrine, like you are not a real, you can't call yourself a real Buddhist unless you understand and really understand the doctrine of dependent origination. It's the landmark revolutionary teaching that we're just now starting to catch up with science, with the doctrine of quantum entanglement and things like this, but the Buddha taught it on a much more profound level. Dependent origination. Things arise dependent on each other. Tall, short, long, short, fat, skinny, self and other. The core one is self and other. Everything springs out of that. How is it so hard to see that if you're imputing yourself relative to other people, it's not a self. It can't stand up on its own. It exists relative to other people. People are so afraid of that. But when you have the bliss and the experience of the unity of the three kayas, then you can, as it says in the Uttara Tantra Shastra, Mahayana Uttara Tantra Shastra from Maitreya, the future Buddha, he teaches that the 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 Buddha nature has purity, it has eternity, it has self. When you have an experience of the unity of the three kayas, you can impute a self over that. That's a true self. That's a true something that stands on its own. The imputed relative self is a ghost that's haunting samsara. It doesn't exist on its own side. It can't exist. It's so easy to me, it's so simple to me and so clear. It's not even a matter of, well, you know, my self changes from moment to moment and I'm trying to cling on to it. How is it a real self? That's one part of the philosophical question, but even in a more fundamental level, the whole notion that you have of your image of yourself exists relative to other people. Otherwise, there's nothing there. There's nothing there that can stand up on its own. It's like I was talking about in my other video. Like, for example, I consider myself tall. That's a relative to other people. I look at how other people view me, and it makes me feel good, makes me feel bad. I'm attached and averse to the outcome of my my actions and the things I say, the things I do, the things I think. They all are just confounded and lost in this web of interdependence of other people who are haunted by this ghost of delusion, of avidya, they're projecting their true self into the false self. They're projecting the unity of the five kayas into this delusion. The unity of the five kayas is non-conceptual wisdom, like it was describing in the Dharmadhatu Stava from the text that I was reading the other day from Nagarjuna. It's non-conceptual wisdom. A lot of people who are relativistic thinkers, again, trapped in dualistic thinking, self, other, big, tall, small, large, self, not self, conceptual, non-conceptual. A lot of the people that think might think like, oh well, non-conceptual wisdom, what does that mean? That doesn't make any sense. How can you have any, if you're not making a conceptual groundwork of things, how can there be anything at all? It must be, nihilistic, just emptiness, nothing there. No, non-conceptual wisdom is gnosis. It's direct experience of the activity, of the energy, of the life force, of the unity of the three kayas, which is wisdom itself. Wisdom, peace, bliss. Love. There's a whole macrocosmic interdependent arising going on in the higher realms, inside of the Dharmakaya, inside of the Shambhogakaya, inside of the unity of the three kayas. There is this whole cosmic experience going on that is the true self, that's a Buddha. That is non-conceptual wisdom. Something that has its origin on something else doesn't have a self. It doesn't stand up on its own. Your brain might make all kinds of justifications to try to say why it does, but it doesn't. It doesn't. It's not there. It's vapor. Even form, the most dense aggregation of what comprises our experience, is constantly interpenetrated by other phenomena. Your form is constantly interpenetrated by different energy, interpenetrated by different substances. Form has no swabhava, has no own being. Form has no selfhood. Even more so with the subtle aggregates. Feelings arise dependent upon other people. They have no self, they're not your feelings. Perception is entirely interdependent. There's no thing of perception without the perceived. There's no self in that. Mental formations, all conceptual thinking is relative. All of it. All moralizing, a lot of philosophers go insane trying to find the absolute morality. A lot of materialist philosophers anyway, because they don't experience the unity of the three kayas. and consciousness. Consciousness is also a storehouse of sense impressions. Mental formations, feelings, perceptions, tricking you into thinking that it's yourself. That is Mara. Mara is the ghost that is haunting samsara. And Mara will fight with you. Mara is a tricky, mischievous phantom. Mara will try over and over to convince you that there's a self, because he exists through that. Now, you think, well, is Mara an actual deva? Is Mara a metaphor? Is Mara a spirit? Think of it as a ghost that's haunting samsara and haunting you. Unless you practice, you do your Dharma practice seriously. Mara will run away with your energy, will run away with your life force. Mara will run away with you and keep you circling and circling in the quantum entanglement with other deluded people. Look at how gripped they are. Mara has them all in his hands. That momentum of delusion, which gives rise to the kleshas, attachment and aversion, relative thought, long, short, big, small. That momentum has become so potent with people. Especially with the information age, where you're just overstimulated with communication, with speech, with mantra. Overstimulated with communication. Your mind is so overstimulated with communication that, to me, it's even easier to realize that it's fake. There is so much relativistic chatter in your screen and, available to you, that I think that the irony, a lot of the ironic humor is just kind of laughing at how relativistic and how convoluted that people's ideas are. You're laughing at how easily that people are sucked in by propaganda, how easily people are sucked in by stupidity. A lot of that ironic humor is laughing, and being ironic is kind of like preserving a safe, healthy distance from it, because you know that it's bullshit. So there's never been a more, I think, there's never been an easier time in human history to understand how that the mind is a lot like the internet. The mind is like this interwoven, all these different, people's opinions and shit, all relative to one another, bouncing off, just like the internet. But when your mind does it, it tries to fixate on making like one coherent self that is just a patchwork of all these relativistic, non-self, ideas. I should be like this, I shouldn't be like that, I should be doing this, I should be doing that, I should react this way when this guy says this thing. I have to, if I don't own this thing, then I'm not the way that I really want to be. People will think that way of me. All of this is relativistic bullshit. It's not real. Dharma is real. Dharma is the absolute reality, the ultimate reality, the unity of the three kayas, the pristine gnosis of your ordinary mind when it's left within the pure experience of itself. Mandalas and mandalas of Buddhas, just like around my crown chakra right now. Mandalas and mandalas of Buddhas are right now hidden behind your eyes. You can only see them with the wisdom eye, because they're on a higher, subtle plane. Mandalas and mandalas of Buddhas in the expanse of your ultimate reality, of the unity of the three kayas. What is the ordinary mind, the energy of the ordinary mind, when it's not convoluted and fixated upon delusion? None of that matters. You can chase samsara from hell to heaven. You can chase samsara from the bottom of the ocean to the top of Mount Everest, and you will never be happy. Because all of your happiness is conditioned by relativistic phenomena, conditioned by self, other, attachment, aversion, long, short. As long as you're trapped in this conditional, well, if I just had this thing, then I'll be happy, something else will come along. Practice the Dharma right now. I feel myself personally. It's like I always go to bed, at night. I've done my practices. Whether I'm making a video for you guys or streaming or studying, I'm mostly devoted to Dharma right now, thankfully. And it feels to me at night, it's so clear to me. I've been practicing for over 10 years now, which isn't even a lot, and I've gone so far to purifying my mind and bringing forth the unity of the three kayas. It's so simple and basic for me to experience this. And it completely transforms when the unity of the three kayas penetrates my ordinary conceptual mind, which is what it is, and transform me into that Dharma Dhatu. It's so simple for me to experience the non-conceptual bliss, experience the non-conceptual wisdom, and it transforms me into a different person, into an enlightened being, into a bodhisattva. It transforms me, and it draws me closer to the goal of becoming full expression of the unity of the three kayas as a Buddha. Full expression, complete expression. And I wake up in the morning, And waking up in the morning, I forget which Lama, I think it was Aryadeva actually, I should read that for you guys. Aryadeva says in his 400 stanzas, he says, when you wake up in the morning, you're overwhelmed by the delusional confusion, by avidya. You're overwhelmed by that energy, because the karmic imprints, it's like, every day is like, it's like dying and then being reborn. When you wake up, it's like the residue, the imprints of that ghost, the saṃsāra, the residue of it is really strong. It overwhelms you, it completely overwhelms you. I wake up and I'm like, I know I should just pop out of bed and start practicing, but I don't. I'll fuck around on the internet or, go through my whatever chores and shit I have to do, my daily bullshit. I mean, if you have to go to work and whatnot, then fine. Go to work, go to school. I get up and I do my bullshit, but it's so tempting to just let it, just distract myself or engage in whatever samsaric nonsense. But I know that it's all relativistic. It's not satisfactory. It's dukkha, not satisfactory, never satisfactory. And you get this like whirling going of the kleshas, and it becomes like neurotic. Oh, I just have to do this and then I'll be happy because this person's thinking that way and that person and this thing. It's like it never ends. And then when you finally get a little piece of happiness, you're afraid of losing it. It certainly doesn't last. Relativistic happiness, anyway. It's like, chasing that relativistic happiness in samsara. It's like eating a cake or something, It's like, oh, this is nice. I've got my cheesecake here. It's really fucking good. You keep eating it, then you get a stomach ache. And you feel like shit, you get fat, you get diabetes. Same with samsara. And then when I finally get around, like, it's like this complete transformation of I'm like two different people. It's like this complete transformation when I get around to, and not so much they connect to each other, but one more than the other. When I'm not practicing dharma, when I'm not in that non-conceptual wisdom, when I'm not in that unity of the three kayas, the experience is there, but it's muddled. It's like covered in dirt, like the Buddhist description of, you know, washing your dish after you eat because it's dirty. It's like covered in film, and that film is the ghost that's haunting samsara. The contradictions of the relativistic phenomena that you're trying to make a self out of that causes this anxiety. It's like error, because it isn't coherent. You're trying to make something coherent out of incoherence. That's anxiety, right? Oh, it should be like this, it should be like that, it shouldn't be, oh, this person, that person. It's incoherence. The Buddha nature is coherent. It's the unity of the three kayas. It's a coherent basis, ground. It's a coherent ground of all phenomena. It's like a communion of infinite gnosis, Buddha gnosis. It is coherent. It is peaceful. It is happy. It is blissful. It is full of wisdom. So, it's not that when I wake up and I'm in that kind of dirty mind state, it's not that I don't know or I don't feel gnosis or I don't see the kayas with my wisdom eye. It's that it's obscured, and Mara is so enchanting with wanting to lure you back into the samsaric mindset. And then when I sit down and I chant Vajrasattva 21 times as soon as I sit down, and I'm not even done chanting Vajrasattva 100 syllable mantra 100 syllable mantra 21 times. I'm not even done, and my mind is completely transformed. And then the unity of the three kayas are there, and everything transforms. The Buddha said that the mind is first and foremost, and then everything comes out of that. It's like that with the paramitas, with the two accumulations of merit and wisdom. The paramitas are generosity, patience, morality, discipline, meditation, and wisdom. Wisdom is always depicted at the end, but no, wisdom is the inner paramita that the morality unfolds from. When you abide in non-conceptual wisdom, your actions will unfold from that, and you will accumulate the two accumulations of merit and wisdom. Which are real, which do stand up on their own, which do cause happiness, which do arise out of non-conceptual gnosis. If you don't have that ground, that foundation of non-conceptual wisdom that you've cultivated, that you've revealed, the unity of the three kayas that you've revealed in your life, then you're lost. If you aren't cultivating it by doing your Dharma practice, your life is meaningless. Nothing but letters written on the sand. The waves will come and wash it, and it will be gone. And you will be lost in samsara again. So practice Dharma. If you guys need me, if you need some advice, if you need some practices, if you need some suggestions, feel free to hit me up on Discord. I made that server so you guys would have, some interdependent origination with like-minded people to do Dharma practice. So if you feel like you would like to talk to me, anything like that, feel free. The link is in the video I posted a couple days ago. I check Discord way too much because, like I said, I'm still trying to orient myself within this unity of the three kayas, within this transformation that has been happening to me and to a lot of you all. So I do check Discord excessively. I'm always on there. Alright, and I need to do my chakra samvara practice now. So I will see you all later.